If you find it frustrating how expensive sewing storage can be, then stick around. Today, I'm going to share with you how I created this dollar store DIY thread organizer. If you are already a foiled friend, thank you for joining me again today. And if you're new here, welcome. I share a lot of different content on my channel. Things like design videos, Cricut crafts, foiling, dollar store DIYs, epoxy tumblers, unboxings, and pretty much anything related to running a small creative business. So if that sort of content interests you, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button to become a foiled friend and turn the notification bell on so you never miss an uploaded video. Now that you know a little bit more about my channel, let's jump into today's video. Alright, so to get started, you'll need some supplies. Pick up a wooden canvas and dowel or pre-cut dowel pins. I got these both from Dollarama. You'll also need adhesive. E6000 or a glue gun works great. I ended up using a glue gun for this project. You'll also need a writing and measuring utensil. And then I know that pictured is an impact driver, but I did actually use a drill for this, not an impact driver. And that's also optional. You can just attach the dowel pins to the canvas with your adhesive, but I added the step of drilling just to make it sturdier. Other optional materials include painting supplies and mounting supplies or pegboard hooks. These options are completely up to you for whether or not you would like to use them. Now that we have our supplies, let's get started. So you'll notice that there's a design on my canvas, and that was just a failed stenciled painting that I tried to make a long time ago, but I have a real problem with not throwing things out, which ended up working out in this case because I was able to upcycle this into something new. So in order to determine how far apart my drill holes needed to be, I grabbed my largest thread spools and set them side by side on the canvas just to see how much space I needed in between. This might be different for yours. You might have smaller spools or larger ones, so you'll just have to kind of figure out the measurements for the size of canvas that you're working on. I think these were about an inch apart, maybe an inch and a quarter. Tough to say, but yeah, I just had them all spaced out, and then what I did was make my measurements on the top, bottom, right, and left hand side of my canvas, and I just marked dots. So basically around the perimeter of the canvas I had all of these dots, and then what I ended up doing was drawing a line with the ruler to connect all of these dots to make sort of a grid-like pattern. And then I knew that anywhere there was a grid intersection line where all four lines would meet to make sort of like a cross, that is where I needed to drill holes to place the dowel rods in. So it made things a lot easier rather than drawing dots and trying to figure it out for every single spot that needed a drill hole. Just draw those lines, connect them, and then you know to do the drill holes in the center of the intersections. Hopefully that makes sense. Now that we've got our grid lines, go ahead and find the correct size drill bit for your dowel pins. I'm using 3/16 and that worked perfectly. I drilled a couple test holes just to make sure that the dowel pin was going to actually fit in the hole, and then I set the thread on top to make sure that the spool was going to fit, which it did, which was super exciting. And then I continued to drill the rest of the holes, and I just made sure that I had some cardboard underneath so I wasn't going to drill right through and then wreck my countertops, because that would not be a good thing. I just got these and it took a little bit of time because there was quite a lot of holes, but we got through and we're on to the next step. So now I'm just placing each of the dowel pins in the holes. Now, if you just bought a dowel rod, you will have to cut it down into these individual pieces, but since mine were already cut into these individual pins, I was able to avoid that step, which was nice. Now, I did use one full package, and then I also had more holes that needed to be filled, so I did have to go back to the store to look for another pack. Now, when I went back, they were completely out. and I just kept checking periodically every couple of weeks. So I did have to put this project on hold for a little bit. So my suggestion to you would be always get extra supplies than what you think you're going to need, just in case. Now that I have all of the dowel pins in their holes, this is what the canvas looks like, and it's time to reinforce them from the back. So I just flipped it over, and I know some of them look a little bit crooked, but we'll fix that once we reinforce them. This step is what took the longest out of anything, and if you have carpal tunnel or issues with your hands, using a glue gun might not be the option that is best suited for you. I do have issues with my hands, so my hands were hurting quite a bit after this, but it was fine. It didn't last too long. So I used my hot glue gun and I went around every single individual dowel piece from the back. I didn't want to do it on the front just because I didn't think that that would look as clean. Now, of course, if you are not drilling holes to push the dowel all the way through, then you would be doing this on the other side, which is completely fine. It's, again, a personal preference thing. So, like I said, this took a really long time, but once it was done, everything was nice and secure. Next, it was time to add the spray paint. Again, optional step, but I put this into a cardboard box and I took it outside so that I could spray paint out there. It ended up taking about 4 coats. Once the spray paint was completely dry, I started to organize all of my thread in the order that I wanted to place it on the organizer. So I went with the stereotypical rainbow color pattern. For me, it's easier to find things that way, but you can totally do it whichever way you like. Then I ended up taking 2 pegboard hooks and I hung it up on my pegboard just with those, and that worked great for me. If you like, you can also use picture frame hanging accessories and you could hang it up on your wall. Or what you could also do is just have it sort of on an angle, or if you take the arm off the back of a picture frame, that might be enough to keep it held up. There's lots of different options, but for me, because I have my pegboard and my sewing machine is right here, it made the most sense for me to have it hanging up. And then I just started to place my organized threads on each of the dowels. And this is the final product. So it may not be completely perfect and flawless like some of the $30 to $80 organizers for thread, but it was a fraction of the price to make, and I am actually really happy with how it turned out. If this video inspires you to make your own thread organizer, I would love to see it. So feel free to post a picture of it on Instagram and tag my Instagram account, which is The Foiled Plan. I'd love to see it. Also, feel free to leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. All right, I hope you have an awesome day. That's all I'm gonna say. Bye.